There is a lot of momentum for University of Louisville athletics right now. You're talking Louisville Baseball going to the College World Series, football competing in the ACC, men's and women's basketball off to hot starts, Pat Kelsey's Cardinals running by the Wildcats in the renewal of the Battle of the Bluegrasses. The Cardinals are certainly state champs, and now the eyes are focused on the ACC and Final Four and beyond, right? Because there is a lot of momentum, and we don't want to leave anybody out. Women's soccer, volleyball is one of the nation's best once again. Field hockey, a lot of great seasons, a lot of great accomplishments have been going on for the University of Louisville. Men's and women's swimming, I'm sure I'm leaving some wonderful things out. But my point is there's a lot of momentum going on. And in this podcast, we're talking some Louisville baseball. And for the Cardinals in 2025, what a year it was to remember. I was lucky to be there in Texas when the Cardinals opened the season in that Shriners College Classic and looked like one of the nation's best coming out of there. A lot of highs during the 2025 season, but it had its share of lows. And the lows are the reason that the team started the postseason on the road. But what a story that helped tell as the Cardinals go through Nashville, get the Supers in Louisville, and then again off to the Omaha for the 6th time in program history. And the Cardinals tie the deepest run that the program has had out in the College World Series. So what a season that Dan McDonnell's team has, and they're certainly looking forward to keeping that momentum, and that's something that's been on his forefront, even before they got to Omaha, and as they were competing for a national championship. And competing for a national championship certainly creates plenty of momentum, and Dan McDonnell wanted to continue that momentum and bring it into his program. And it's a lot more than just on-field product these days. With the changing landscape of college baseball, it's a lot more than off-season production and player development and recruiting, because there's a larger influence that impacts how well all of those areas do, and that's the financial impact. You've got NIL and other fundraising efforts to increase facilities and needed equipment and things like that. And it really led Dan to McDonnell, as he's leading his program to the College World Series for the 6th time, made him ponder the question:
are we trying to survive, or are we trying to really thrive?
Welcome into the Cards Cast, and that's the topic of this Cards Cast. We've got University of Louisville head coach Dan McDonnell talking with us, as well as his new baseball player personnel consultant, Aaron Flaker, joining us. We're going to talk about how important and the efforts that are growing with this new role for Louisville to continue to thrive on the field, as well as thrive off the field in the financial aspect to raise NIL and other key fundraising efforts. As you'll hear from our conversations with Dan McDonnell, and I also had an opportunity to talk to Aaron Flaker about his excitement for this role, for how he was recruited into the role. But it's going to have a huge impact for this, again, the changing landscape of college sports. You got to have somebody that can kind of focus on NIL, help focus on other fundraising efforts and facilities and things to improve the player experience, if you will. So we'll talk about all of that throughout this Cards Cast. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to get a quick update from Coach McDonnell on how his current team is. They had a great fall ball season. They've got their Omaha Challenge, a program that they do ever since Dan McDonnell came, which is kind of a feats of strength and kind of a mental challenge as well that they do every year at this time. And so just wanted to get a quick update on him, and then on the team, and then we'll dive into the meat of the podcast. And make sure you stay tuned so you can find out how you can get involved in making sure that the Louisville baseball program continues to thrive.
We're calling it Do It Now November
Nice.
because, October was a message about, you go to Omaha by what you do in October. But this segment, of the year, you got to make sure you keep motivated. That now is a great time to, we have our heart-to-heart meetings at the end of the fall. We kind of go over the good, the bad, the ugly. We address areas individually with each kid where they need to improve. And this is a month, Do It Now, November, where, you're going to make some tweaks, you're going to make some changes, whether that's academically, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, whether it's spiritually, whether it's nutritionally, whatever that is. This is a great month to maximize that focus and get into what we call that winning routine and create that momentum going into the holiday season and ready for the spring.
To continue that momentum that the University of Louisville gained by going to the College World Series for the 6th time, Dan McDonnell thought now was the perfect time to bring in the new role of baseball player personnel consultant, someone who can focus on NIL, focus on raising funds for the Dugout Club and for future facility projects, and having someone that the head coach can trust, having someone that knows the city, that has been around the University of Louisville his entire life, be it the school or athletics. Aaron Flaker checks all those boxes. Baseball's also in his blood. He played baseball at Male High School, eventually made his way to the University of Louisville, where he became the Cardinal Bird mascot for a number of years, a two-time graduate of U of L. He was in that role all the way through his MBA program, helping the fans enjoy themselves at the games and get them excited for what's happening on the court and on the field. Pretty exciting role, one that he won a championship in 1995. It also allowed him to get to know people in the athletic department and helped springboard a very successful professional career. He became a donor for the program. In 2019, U of L baseball opened a pro locker room that welcomes back Cardinals that have gone on to professional careers, gives them a place to come back and train and be around others and have their own locker room at the stadium. That's called the Flaker family locker room. So in Aaron Flaker, Dan McDonnell has tapped somebody that understands the city, loves the university, has a passion for its sports, and has a great relationship with the head coach, with members of the athletic department, and throughout the business community in the city. Here's Aaron Flaker describing his relationship with Dan McDonnell, as well as his excitement for his new role as baseball player personnel consultant.
Dan and I have known each other for almost 20 years now, so it's crazy. We've had quite a relationship for years, and it's been a good one. And we met when our sons were in tree school together at Middletown United Methodist preschool, and it was his first few weeks here, and I met his wife Julie first, and it's like, "Aren't you the new baseball coach's wife?" And it's like, "Yep." She was like, "He'll be at something here soon. I'll show you guys." She was, "Sounds like you're a big Cardinal fan." Like, yeah. She's like, "We're just kind of getting our feet wet around here, and good to know that we know somebody now." And I was like, "Well, welcome to town." Of course, the next parent thing or wherever that we were together, he was there, and we hit it off. And gosh, we've gone, my wife and I and his wife and Dan, we've gone to concerts together. We've done, fun things together. We've put at games and whatnot together at other female sports. So, so we go way back. Obviously, that first year he went to Omaha, and I went out there that first year. He invited me. I couldn't go for the whole thing, but I got there for like day 2 or 3, I think, of Louisville's run, and it was such a cool. I'd always heard Omaha was great. Now that was at the old Rosenblatt, before they built the new place. But of the 6 times I've been out there 4 times with them, so we're close already. But so over the years I've gotten to hear about the wins and losses, the challenges, and the the wins on that, inside of challenges of building the program, challenges of maintaining the program, challenges that deal with the changing landscape. So for years I've heard him, say like, "Hey," he calls me Flake, and most people call me Flake, but he's saying Flake, it's getting tough and things are changing, and this landscape keeps changing, and we're having to continue to adapt. It was portal, and then it was NIL that became just pay for play, and now we've got real NIL, and now we've got rev share. So, so there's some new rules changing in terms of recruiting things, that compliance things continue to change. So, this culminated in Omaha a little bit, where we were at the hotel, and it was, you have like the day between games, so there's a lot of doubts. Yeah. So if you were back home just watching when we play, but if you're there, you got a lot of that. Like Tuesday at 3:30 in the afternoon or whatever, noon or whatever, then you don't play again until 2 days later on a Thursday. So we were just, chit-chatting in the hotel, and he was expressing to me, his concerns with the changing landscape and how much it's requiring of him personally, and not complaining, but just saying it's just a challenge. Like, it's more than, he's basically saying it's just more than he can handle. And, he understands that football and basketball are, revenue generators and kings and all, it's not like anybody's null and void or deaf to that situation. But, he said we still have needs, and I feel like I need some help. Like it's getting, bigger than what I can handle as a coach. He said, I felt like, because I'm more on the entrepreneur side, I've coached travel ball and high school ball and rec ball, all three over the last, depends on which time in my life that I was doing each one, but for, 30 years off and on. So, I've coached, but not, obviously not at the collegiate level. And so only seen it through his eyes in terms of what the demands look like, from a travel. There's really not an off season, to be honest. You're either in recruiting season, you're in the fall preps, or welcome kids to campus. And then right now you're in fall prep, trying to just figure out what your parts and pieces, and then they take a a small break, for the holidays. Obviously, he was having to chase, and figure out rev share and chase NIL. And just being frank, he doesn't have time to do that. There's no way he could fit all of that in with me, all while managing a Power Four Division One, elite, 6-time World Series college program. He basically was just saying, like, I really need some help, but he wasn't saying I need your help, if that makes sense. So in Omaha, that's how it started. And then we got home in July, and he started texting some saying, Blake, I think you can help me. If that's something you're interested in, let me know, because you're my choice. And man, that was humbling. That was really, Dan's a good recruiter, as we know, because of the success of the program. But little did I know in our, off the wall conversations in Omaha that he was recruiting me.
As mentioned by Flake, Dan McDonnell has a lot of success recruiting. He does it well. Just take a look at the All-American wall at Jim Patterson Stadium, and you get a sense of how successful and how well Dan McDonnell recruits. Not to mention how well he is at developing players once he gets them on the campus. And so on that note, when it comes to the new role of baseball player personnel consultant, Dan McDonnell knew exactly who he wanted to put in that role.
I always say you win in life with the right people, and Aaron Flaker is a winner. And when I say he's a winner, I'm talking about as a husband, as a father, very successful in the community. His faith has grown, and for us personally, knowing him for my 20-year stretch here in Louisville, he's one of the first. I met him at Middletown Methodist as our kids were entering preschool, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and we got to talking, and 10, 11 months later, we're in Omaha together having dinner one night after one of the games. And so just our relationship has grown in our 20 years here being in Louisville. And as we talk about you win in life with the right people, and I talk about his qualities, everyone knows how passionate he is as an alumni of this university, working in the athletic department, playing high school baseball and ball for a short period of time, and then all the things he's done athletically in the world of youth baseball, very involved, very in the know, and it was just a really good fit.
With the changing landscape in college sports, obviously college baseball is seeing that as well. How important is having somebody in a role like that for a baseball program?
Well, it's huge. I mean, when I speak at baseball clinics, whether it's on base running or team defense or whatever the baseball skill is, I always end it with this. If you emphasize it, you have a chance to be good at it. And that really applies to any area of your life. When we're specifically talking about this baseball program, if you emphasize it, you can be good at it. And so much has happened in the past several years, with COVID, and then the change in administration, and then the NIL world, and so many things. It was like one curveball after another and one challenge after another. And a lot of athletic departments were just being faced with this: hey, are we trying to survive, or are we trying to really thrive? And the exciting thing about U of L athletics, and I've sent this video where Josh Hurd is kind of emceeing before the Red Black get together event before the football season and all the fall sports kick off, and he's talking about last year's success and just kind of building off of that momentum that we had last year. We were in the Valley whether it was the baseball program specifically or several areas of maybe our athletic department. But man, we were in the sunshine last year. We got out of the storm and the sun was on our face. And man, we have to keep that. We have to keep striving to thrive. And so, what a big year. Fall sports, football's doing great things. We're excited with the winter sports and basketball, men's and women's kicking off. And so, for us, it's like, hey, how are we going to maintain the success we had in baseball? Well, you got to do it with the right people. And now more than ever, you have to love on your players in more ways than just, hey, coaching them. There's a financial element to it. And so Aaron is very successful, has a lot of relationships, a lot of connections, understands the world of business, but also understands the world of athletics. And so he saw kind of the stress that I've been under and the challenge of, hey, I can't do it all. One of my joking lines in the office, if I'm changing out the water container or putting in new cups, and it's like, hey, I can't do everything. We kind of tease each other in the office when we're doing things that might not be under your title, right? But the reality is, to be a great coach and to help these kids be their best, there's a financial element to that. And so whether it's NIL, obviously the fundraising aspect has always been huge, but we got facilities and areas that, as I say, we're trying to thrive and we're preparing for the future. So Aaron's got plenty on his plate. He knows myself, our coaching staff, our players, man, we're all going to get involved. And I think he knows he's got a great product to sell. We got great kids, great representatives of this program. And I mean, look at Will Smith and Dalton Rushing just winning a World Series. And you don't have to be a superstar in the big leagues to be a great representative of our program. I'm just as proud of many of my former players that are doing great things out in the community, as husbands, as fathers, as, like I said, great ambassadors of the University of Louisville.
Certainly an important and valuable role for the University of Louisville baseball program to have, and one that's going to be a busy role. Here's the new Louisville baseball player personnel consultant, Aaron Flaker, talking about these new responsibilities.
Is you got to find people that where their goals and beliefs align with our needs. So for some people that might be NIL, and for some people it might not be. So if it's the beautiful thing about having the Dugout Club is that if somebody's more interested in just like tax deduction, or they want to make sure it stays within the university and helps the program as a whole and not just directly to one athlete specifically, then we push that to the Dugout Club. And then obviously facilities is the third bucket, but that's a whole other animal. Then I'll know as you're looking for, 6 and 7 figure type commitments and multi-year, to help make sure things get completed properly. Because as we know, things, they might price out a building, but 6 months later that thing's exponentially, or a year or 2 years later, grown in price. So again, that'll be more on the long range side. I've helped Dan with the Dugout Club for like 10 years. So I'm not new to that, or that I feel out to encourage to help them with putting the framework together.
Dan McDonnell also highlighted the 3 buckets of the financial aspects to make sure that his program continues to thrive amongst the nation's elite.
We've always said right now we got 3 buckets. We got the Dugout Club, which is, yes, a great way to help our program, whether that's with our travel, with meals, new pitching machine, new upgrades that we need around the facility, and not trying to ask the school and the athletic department with how stretched they are right now. The Dugout Club has been a great resource for our baseball program. You always have facility upgrades, and we had a big plan in left field, and then that got taken off the table. Now we're leaning towards an indoor hitting facility on the right field line. We're trying to renovate the Hack Shack and create a pitching lab. Will Smith is definitely wanting to get involved. And so, that's going to be a big project that we're hoping to unveil and share a little bit more in the next few weeks or months, if you call it that. And then you mentioned it, NIL. And so that's where Aaron is going to really be able, if you're a business owner or there's a company that wants to get involved, we can do great partnerships where, whether it's one player or a few players or whatever it may be, I want these to be win-win relationships, transactional relationships. You're a company, you work hard, you're going to put money towards this marketing opportunity to help a baseball player. In return, that baseball player is going to help market your company. So there's going to be an education piece on how, businesses and companies can get involved. But you also said it. I think the challenge Aaron has right now is, yes, what about the person who wants to give a couple $100, $500, $1,000, and he wants it to go in that NIL space? That's where we're going to get creative, educated on all the new rules. And if you get enough people, kind of like what was happening with 502 Circle, but now it's a little different. But this is strictly baseball. And that's where Aaron has his baseball hat on, and he can make sure he's reaching everybody who wants. There's a lot of great people in this community that want to help baseball. Now we've got a leader at the top that can navigate that, organize that, and help me continue to build relationships with the great fans in this community.
When momentum grows, so does interest, and Aaron Flaker's new role will help Louisville baseball capture that interest from a fundraising perspective. And doing so, as Aaron Flaker says here, will certainly lighten the workload of Dan McDonnell and let him to focus more on the field with player development and recruiting.
Yeah, yes, we're a 6-time College World Series team, and 2019 wasn't that far ago, but 2025 wasn't very far ago at all. That was just months ago. We were playing and made it to the Final Four teams too. By the way, the second time we've done that, so it equaled the best finish in the history of Louisville baseball. So that's nothing to laugh about or write home about, right? So I mean, yes, totally a renewed kind of a reinvigoration, and I think the announcement of this new role, and it's not about me. I mean, obviously, I feel like I'm a good fit for it because it fits my passion and my God-given talents and skills. But more importantly, it gives the program more dedicated attention, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's no knock on the university or athletic for everything like that. But football and basketball has a lot of dedicated attention. It just is what it is. It's the nature of that beast. So they're such big revenue generators. But it allows us to do some things that maybe otherwise we wouldn't be able to do, and definitely gives Dan what I'm hoping, and is try to give Dan more time on the field and coaching, which is what his real job is. His job's to win games and develop players and build relationships and recruit the next generation of athletes. And
yeah, it's certainly been notable, especially since NIL's kicked in, how much, his role has really evolved. So certainly, I agree with you. Having a role like this for the program, it's certainly kind of a take notice for everybody else. Like, hey, we're taking this as serious as the SEC and everybody else. So,
I think it's important for me to also recognize, if you don't mind, before we wrap up here, I just want to make sure that that we give massive kudos here, not just to Dan for the idea, but for Josh Hurd and as our athletic director and his team and staff. I mean, they've been phenomenal, like already opening their world up to me. It's a little unique in that you don't see many times where a fan and donor moves directly into a key role like this. The only one that comes to mind for me is like Vince Tyra, obviously I'm not trying to toot my horn as an athletic director, that's not what I am. But I mean, just saying, like, you just don't see it how very often. Somebody moves out of the donor fan world into the into an actual role within a program, especially on the athletic side. So I don't take that for granted or take it lightly. In the words of Pat Kelsey, to never delay gratitude. I may have not said it the same way he does or as much as he does, but him coming to our campus has reinvigorated my belief in saying thank you to people for opportunities and things. So I'd be remiss if not without saying that, man, Josh and his team have just opened their arms up and opened up their, time with me. And
Louisville baseball well underway and making the effort to return to Omaha for a 7th time. All of those coming under Dan McDonnell's leadership. The Cardinals had a great fall campaign. They're now in Do It Now November, and they just released their 2026 schedule. It's a pretty exciting one. As always, the ACC, a pretty exciting slate, but so is the out-of-conference games. The Cardinals will open the season at home this year against Michigan State, a 3-game weekend series against Michigan State to get things started. And then they'll head down to Dallas, Texas for the 2nd time in a row. Great event last year that helped get the Cardinals off to a great start. It has an opportunity to be a springboard for 2026 as well.
Amen. Yeah, second weekend of the year, we open up at home versus Michigan State, and then around the 21st, 22nd, we're down in Dallas. So for those that went last year, what a fun trip in a big league stadium, direct flights, great fan support, and that was the springboard to a great season last year, and this year it'll be very early on. So we're hoping fans are making plans for that.
You heard them. Start making plans for that as well as the opener. It's going to be a fun 2026 season. I'm looking forward to it already. Again, thank you so much for Aaron Flaker, Louisville's new baseball player personnel consultant, and University of Louisville head coach Dan McDonnell for taking time in this Cardscast.